Warning. This podcast features adult subject matter, adult language, and things not meant for children to hear. Viewer discretion is advised. You've been warned. Live, everybody. Here on the fresh03 channel. I know this is completely out of sorts. This is a whole different night. This is a whole different channel. This is a whole different audience. But as we have said in the past, we will not let the current situation of everything that is crazy stop the I'm No Joe podcast. And this is the proof in the pudding, as it were. So welcome everyone to the I'm No Joe podcast here on the fresh03 channel this evening. Due to unforeseen circumstances, we were not able to have our regularly scheduled I'm No Joe last evening on our channel, so the wonderfulness that is Fresh03 was gracious enough to give us a platform this evening, so here we are, fine folks. So before we get too deep into it here, I do have to apologize to everyone who is here on Fresh's channel for the regular Fresh 03 Friday evening show. This is going to be a whole different sort of craziness, so I have to apologize in advance. If that's not what you guys were signed up for, hang on to your britches. It's going to be a wild one. But for those of you who do know what we are about to get up to, welcome and thank you. So before we get all this craziness unleashed, I do want to take just a moment here, go around the room and thank the fine folks who came along with me to make this shit show a shenanigan glory fest. So first and foremost, the freshest and most gracious guest, host slash just amazing person you could possibly hope to be in the company of, Mr. Fresh03 himself. Thank you again, sir, for all of your wonderfulness this evening.
We're live on my channel. Live, everybody. Yeah, for those that haven't ever checked out the I'm No Joe podcast, you really are missing out on something. We all have a really good time doing it. And yeah, when it looked like, this was probably the best option just to co-opt the Friday show and do something a little different, give you guys still your chat that you get to hang out and then get to hear us talk about a little bit something different. I'm sure we'll talk about our normal shenanigans at some point, but just it's something a little different. I kind of like how I kind of like Fridays being a little bit different from everything else that we do during the week. So hang on, everybody, because I'm No Joe gets a little crazy.
we have been known to get a little liberal. So thank you again for your assistance and everything else you do for us here, Mr. Fresh03. And then we've got a newcomer sitting in the wings here. It's yet to be determined exactly how much we'll get from him, but I'm sure we'll get a few comments from the peanut gallery during the course of the evening while we've got him here at least. The one and only, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Addy Tooney. How you doing, sir?
I'm no Joe virgin, so I don't know what to expect.
That's all right. We promise to make it interesting. We can't promise gentle, but we'll promise interesting.
I'm from the old school, Mr. Wonderful and Andre the Giant, and
I think you'll be all right.
Oh, there's a couple of them on this card.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think there'll be a few. Yeah, I think there'll be a few that you'll recognize.
There's some old school dudes on this card.
Cool.
Absolutely.
And then they're just grabbing anybody out of the alley that's still hanging around.
They were pulling names left and right. Yeah. And then across from him, this wonderful fine Friday evening, we have got Fishtown's finest himself, the fisticuffs from Philly, Mr. Nick Devine. How you doing, buddy?
What's up, Meter? What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody in chat? I don't know much about wrestling, but that doesn't stop me on the MMA show where I don't know much about that either. So I'm sure I'll say something stupid.
That's all right. We'll work our way through it. And then, as it is, more often than not, across the octagon from me, as it were, my Wednesday night compatriot, my combat sports homeboy, the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only Golf T Vapes. How you doing, brother?
Dude, I'm excited. Like, this is the one and only time that I get to honestly can say I'm going to be a ruthless, filthy fucking casual. I'm looking at pictures of people and I'm choosing matches by that because I have no fucking clue what I'm talking about when it comes to this. Unless it's like mid-90s wrestling and back, I have no fucking clue. So this ought to be good.
Yeah, you and me both. So for those of you who aren't aware, before we get too deep into the craziness here, generally speaking, the I'm No Joe podcast is your home for all things punchy kicky. We are the source for all things combat sports, grappling, MMA, jiu-jitsu, grappling and wrestling, non-contact or non-striking, you name it. If it has to do with the fighting world, generally that's what we cover. Unfortunately, due to the current global situation whose name you cannot mention, much like Voldemort, we are currently sitting in a situation where we don't have a whole lot of combat sports just in general globally right now. What we do have is some combat sports entertainment that we will be talking about later this evening. The reason for the season, the namesake itself for this particular episode, the one and only WrestleMania. But before we get to that, as has been told to me by folks much smarter than myself, before we get into all of the meat and potatoes of this particular episode, I should tell you fine folks where you can get some more of this particular content if that suits your fancy. So before we dive into it, if the I'm No Joe podcast seems like something that might be up your alley, you can find us on basically all platforms at I'm No Joe. Facebook, Instagram, Mixer, YouTube. You can even help support us by going to patreon.com/I'm No Joe. And I understand it can be a thing, the Instagram influencer level faces that you see on the screen here are just too much for you. You can also consume the I'm No Joe podcast in all audio form at anchor.fm/I'm No Joe, so you don't get distracted and you can intake that information a little better. But let's dive into it here. So as we like to do on the I'm No Joe podcast, the first thing we do, we break into what we like to refer to as our news and recent events segment. The things that have gone on since the last time we saw you fine folks, the fight announcements that have still been talked about, because there are still fights being made, even though everything's kind of on hold right now. We do still have some interesting things to talk about. So the first thing that I do want to jump into and bring, it's obviously we don't have a whole lot of great news right now with things being as they are, the world kind of being in a bit of chaos, but news is still news and it still does have to be reported. So we did get official confirmation this Tuesday that with UFC 249 being worked, Dana White has confirmed that it is booked. He just is not releasing the location of it for security risks. Joe Rogan actually came out this week and said that, yes, it is confirmed UFC 249 does have a location as of right now. It will still be taking place on April 18th, but we will not have Joe Rogan there to commentate. As of right now, we do not have any official notice of who, if anyone, will be on-site commentating. Fingers crossed, what I'm hoping is that this is going to be a situation not quite like we had with Submission Underground last weekend, where Chael was there commentating by himself. In this situation, I'm actually hoping what they could do would be to put, like, Rogan and Anik in the truck, maybe, so that they're not technically in the building, and we can still get on-site real-time commentary. But at this point, we're just going to have to wait and cross our fingers. But as of right now, there's not going to be any Rogan on the 249 commentary. But it does look like it is still going through, so mixed bag, silver lining kind of information there.
I just have Paul Felder commentate.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Is like we could get Felder if nothing else, because he's always down for it and he is a good commentator. But we fall back into that. Do we do it like Uncle Chael did last weekend and have him by himself at a desk in the empty room? Or that's why I was kind of thinking maybe if we could get these guys in the truck, it doesn't count. Yeah, it doesn't count as on site if we've got them in the truck. But then they're still getting the live feed direct from the cameras. So I don't know.
What I'm hoping is it's anybody other than DC.
Well, let's not get crazy. We still have to hope that we don't get Brandon Fitzgerald too. So
fair enough.
We did get cursed a couple weeks ago, and they actually put the two of them together, and I thought I was gonna fucking gargle with buckshot. But moving along from there, it's pretty much resonated through the entire combat sports world at this point, but it still absolutely bears talking about. Once again, Tyrone Biggums himself has found himself with a pair of shiny silver fucking handcuffs. Jon Jones has once again been arrested for his outside of the octagon shenanigans. This time on a count of aggravated DWI, negligent use of a firearm, driving without proof of insurance. The video is out there. It's not good. He was clearly drunk as shit, had a bottle of, ironically enough, Jorge Masvidal's tequila sitting open in the passenger seat, half empty. They gave him the field sobriety test, you can see in the video, they gave him multiple gracious chances to try and pass the field sobriety test, and there's no fucking way. John was fucking hammered. The interesting thing is that it all stemmed from someone calling the police to report a gunshot. John, when they got there, said he didn't know anything about it till they had him in cuffs for the DWI, at which point he mumbled something about under his seat, where they found a loaded handgun with one spent round in the chamber. So John, once again, fucked up outside the octagon and got arrested for it. The interesting thing, I don't even know if it's really interesting so much as it is aggravating for those of us who have been following this dumpster fire of a fucking story since John became the youngest UFC champion in history. We actually have already seen him come and go through his court date since this happened less than a week ago. He has already been arrested, released, and been to court. Jon Jones pled guilty to a plea bargain presented for him. Now, you're going to have to brace yourself, folks, because these are some serious charges, and this is a serious punishment. I want you all to be prepared for the gravity of what he's about to have to deal with. 4 days of house arrest, unsupervised. A year of unsupervised probation. I can do it. Hang on. And a $5,000 fine.
For Jon Jones.
That's now, to be fair, they have threatened to put an ankle monitor on him for those 4 days of house arrest. They're not playing with him. But as of right now, it's all unsupervised. So basically, what we've learned here is that no matter how big Jon Jones fucks up, They're gonna let him skate. If you thought Conor McGregor getting off light for the fucking Dolly incident was one thing, Jon Jones fired a fucking gun in downtown Albuquerque so drunk he couldn't walk a straight fucking line. They gave him 4 days house arrest, unsupervised, and a year probation.
Yep. Money talks, everybody. Money talks.
Especially in a town as relatively small as Albuquerque, with a name like Jon Jones, he, for all intents and purposes, is their local celebrity.
Yeah.
It's so fucking frustrating to watch what realistically could have been one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time, literally time after time after time, just throw his fucking future away on some stupid bullshit. And it's been said by multiple people at this point, why the fuck, if you insist on partying like this, hire one of your homeboys for $45,000 a year to just drive you around when you want to go do stupid shit like this. 3 of the last 5 times he has been in trouble has stemmed from him drunk driving in some fashion or another.
Yeah.
Fuck, man.
Oh.
Yeah. And it really is a shame because I mean the guy's incredible. Not, at this point of his career, not so much. But
Yeah.
I mean in his prime where he missed large chunks because of this
Absolutely,
shit.
yeah, years now.
Yeah, he missed years of fights. The dude was incredible. Incredible. He was fucking untouchable. He was so unorthodox. He could work anything. He could work any way that anybody else wanted to. He was the epitome of what like a UFC fighter could be. And then he would go out and get drunk and he would be forced to miss 2 years. He'd be forced to miss 18 months. He'd be forced to miss 3 years because of all these things that happened to him. And so everybody, it's tough to imagine what this guy could have been. But then you also have to think, what are all those extra fights? What type of a toll would it taken on him? Would he still be fighting at this point? It's tough. But I mean, Jones is a monster.
I think
in
the worst
every
part
way,
is that
shape,
it's
or form.
avoidable. Like,
Yeah.
none of this had to happen. He brought every bit of this bullshit down on his own fucking head, and he legitimately could have been a legend. Just tore through the entire fucking world and, had fucking nothing but rubble in his wake, and instead he can't get out of his own fucking way.
Yeah.
And you really hope somebody like that gets help at some point, but there's the old saying, you can't help people that don't want help.
Yep.
Like I didn't. I was a basket case before I finally opened up my eyes and decided, hey, I need some help.
Yeah, likewise.
So I mean, I can put myself in Jones's shoes and be like, dude, I fucking understand. But,
well, and that's exactly one of the reasons why I criticize him for the volume of his actions, not for the individual ones, because I'm far from perfect and my history is far from fucking clean. I'm no one to cast judgment on anyone else in that vein at all. I've been there and I was an absolute royal fuck up, so I absolutely wouldn't cast judgment on him for that. My problem is that once is a mistake. Twice can even be considered a mistake. 3 times is a habit. 5 times is a pattern of behavior.
yeah.
Now this is something that you are capable and predestined to do, or predilected towards, and you're still giving yourself the opportunity to fall into that trap at the level that you are. Come on, man, that's just basic life talk now.
Yep.
I think for me, the worst part of all of this is how lenient, partially how lenient the sentence is, but that they did not take away his driver's license.
Mm-hmm.
They're making him install
It's probably suspended.
Yeah, that's the only actual harsh part is that they're going to make him install one of the breathalyzer locks on his car.
Yeah, and which
how
you have
long?
to go into once every 30 minutes.
Yeah,
to
once
keep
every
your
30
car
minutes for 6 months.
Yeah.
For 6 months?
Half his probation, yeah. Half his probation.
Half his probation. At this point, they should have taken away every fucking vehicle he owned.
They should have thrown the book
This
at
isn't the
him.
first time he's had a driving fuck up.
Yeah, they
The
should have
first
thrown the
one
book
was
at him for
far
this.
worse, but
Still.
I mean, if you go and you watch the video, Jon Jones is a top level elite fucking MMA fighter. Period. You watch that DUI test that he did, just trying to do the walk and turn.
Just listening to them
like a toddler.
Just listening to them have a conversation, tell him what they want him to do. At least 5 times in the first 3 minutes of the video, he says to the cop, "I have ADHD. I can't keep track of things." Right out the gate, he's laying the groundwork, and you can tell. And then they're telling him, "You walk 9 steps, turn around, and walk back." So I'm turning left. I'm taking 8 steps. At no point does he grasp and carry on comprehensively with just basic instructions. Like, it was a bad scenario.
Yep.
I've been drunk and passed one of them fucking things.
Makes it that much worse.
Yeah, it was a sad sight to see, but I think I'm just more pissed that they didn't at least take his driver's license away.
Yeah, at the very least, I
remove the
agree.
vehicles from his possession. Put that kid on a permanent fucking Uber status. But
Right.
and I can't call him a kid anymore because he's over 30 now.
Yeah.
He needs to be on. You need to have a permanent Uber on speed dial, or have a permanent driver. You make that much money from your fights, and plus whatever other contracts you got going on the side.
Right.
All of your snitch money. I'm just saying.
Uber should sponsor him and give him free rides, and they should let him put
That-
Uber
right?
on his trunks.
That would
Like, I don't understand why this guy isn't getting the Des Bryant treatment.
Right.
I know I said that last time I was on I'm No Joe, but why doesn't he get the Des
That's all
Bryant treatment? Like Jerry Jones realizes he's got the most talented receiver in the NFL at that point. He hires someone to live with this motherfucker and make sure that he doesn't go out and do something really fucking stupid, because Des Bryant was really prone to doing some stupid shit. And so Dana's got this golden. He's still a golden calf. Like, he's gonna produce pay-per-view buys. People are still gonna pay to watch Jon Jones fight. He still hasn't lost a fight, even though he lost that last fight. I don't give a shit what the judges said.
And I do need to correct myself. He should have called a fucking cab, because I don't want to offend anybody out there. My apologies.
Oh, it's too late. There's fury in those. There's fury in those emojis.
Oh, son of a bitch. My bad. Either way, yeah, he just needs somebody to go and say, enough's fucking enough. Just be done with it.
I agree.
And cut him off. Yes, give him the Des Bryant treatment, something. Make him live with his fucking parents, for Christ's sakes.
Some kind of actual punishment is really all that I would settle for. It doesn't even have to be, fucking grandiose. I'm not saying you got to put him in a fucking iron mask and throw him in a fucking tower for 8 years. What I'm saying is hold the fucking guy accountable for his actions. He's a grown-ass man, and he's caused serious fucking problems. Let's make him actually be accountable for that. Like a real society should.
I say put him in a 6-month lockdown rehab.
I mean,
with the shit that he fucking hit and ran a pregnant girl.
Yeah. Oh,
high out of his mind.
I apologize. I did miss that. Part of the punishment is also including a 90-day outpatient voluntary rehabilitation service. He's also done 3 of those up to this point already.
That's group. It's group therapy is essentially what he's going to do for 90
Basically.
days, like a couple times a week. So
right, which we've already seen clearly doesn't work for him. So what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Although, don't get it wrong. Once he does do that, though, you know what we're gonna see? We're gonna see a whole bunch of posts on Instagram of, "I'm a changed man. I went through this." We're gonna have a John Anik piece where he's talking to John Anik about how he's changed since the incident.
Wearing that big gold cross around his neck so you can tell that he's back to his faith.
Yep, yeah, I'm back faith-based. I've been going to church every Sunday. Yeah, it's all going to be just a big bunch of bullshit. I love the guy as a fighter, but as a human being, he's a piece of fucking trash.
Yep.
Yeah, how much longer before he goes off and kills somebody,
Well, that's the thing. It's getting worse every time. It's getting to where you can tell it's less impactful on him. Like, granted,
it seems like the punishments are getting less, though. All the punishments are getting less.
Like, the first time when he hit the lady in the car, you could tell he was legitimately concerned. He was, like, bona fide, like, scared out of his fucking mind, scared for his life. He gets arrested for firing a fucking handgun in downtown Albuquerque and drunk driving, and he's like casual and joking with the cops and shit. Like it doesn't affect him anymore. So, you know,
I mean, Breaking Bad is the home of Albuquerque, right?
you
It is
never know.
Albuquerque.
You never
No,
know.
was it Albuquerque or Santa Fe?
I think it was Albuquerque.
I think it was Albuquerque too. Albuquerque's actually a really, really flipping cool place, by the way.
It really is. It really is. And that's
Yeah.
one of the bad things is that now you got assholes like Jon Jones bringing the fucking reputation of a really legitimately cool city down by his fucking shenanigans.
Yeah.
And you got George R.R. Martin sitting in his movie theater eating Parmesan popcorn instead of working on the rest of those fucking books.
Right. No shit.
George R.R. Martin.
Bastard.
Yeah, how does it? One last thing. How does a guy, Donald Cerrone, live in Albuquerque, New Mexico, loves drinking and doing stupid shit, but never gets locked up for it? Right?
You ever
He
seen
does
the
it out.
BMF?
He does it out on his ranch.
Yeah, you ever seen
Yeah.
the BMF ranch? He's got like
Yeah.
300 acres out of town, and he
Yeah.
doesn't have to go there. The Budweiser stocks his fucking refrigerators for him. He gets shit canned, plays on 4-wheelers and shit, never has to go into town and get in any fucking trouble. And if you follow the social media, Cowboy's always drinking and having fun out there on the ranch doing something.
Why isn't Jon Jones gonna move in with Cowboy Cerrone?
Or whatever it is.
I'm pretty sure they don't get along.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
they don't get
I
along.
don't give a
Yeah.
like Dana should be like, I don't give a fuck. You're moving out to that ranch. Jon
You're
Jones.
going to move with
Right?
Cowboy.
Yeah.
You're gonna
fucking
live with
constant-
Cowboy.
Yeah, boot camp for fucking UFC mess ups. That could be a potential thing. Like they could turn the BMF ranch into like boot camp for UFC fuck ups. Like the equivalent of your dad telling you that you're gonna go to military school and you're gonna spend 2 weeks out on fucking BMF ranch and you don't complete Cowboys training, you don't go back into UFC.
So
Jon Jones just has a permanent bunk. Every once in a while, the Diaz brothers show up. Like,
Right.
man, I don't need to be here.
you see,
Just
Jones
me mugging the shit out of everybody.
let's see, class of 2020: Jon Jones, Sugar Shane O'Malley. There's a
Voldemort.
laundry list of fuck ups.
Yep.
Oh, TJ Dillashaw can go there for his substance abuse program.
Well, he can bring everyone his clean juice to help them with their cleanse.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
fucking kids these days. But moving along from there, with the possibility of 249 still being realistically questionable, even though Dana has said it's set, he's got the location, everything's locked down. Realistically, the way that the world is running right now, nothing is set in stone. So, on the off chance that things still fall through and we get 249, we might not get it the way that we originally have anticipated it. We called it when it was first announced, and as infuriating as it is, it turns out we might have actually once again been correct in calling the fucking curse that the MMA gods have put on the Tony and Khabib fight, because we found out at the beginning of this week, for logic that no one can seem to piece together, in the middle of a potential literal global lockdown and travel embargo between almost every country on the fucking planet, Khabib decided out of nowhere to leave his training camp in San Jose and fly all the way back to Russia literally 2 days before the Russian government announced they were sealing the borders of Russia.
So,
Now, I will say, hang on, where'd I put it? It's here. I've got it. There we go. The caveat to that is that we have yesterday gotten confirmation from the Russian government that despite the lockdown, they will still allow Khabib to take a private chartered flight and leave Russia to come back to San Jose to save his camp, to keep him from being locked down within Russia for the next month and a half. We have yet to get confirmation if he's actually going to get on that plane, though. As of right now, he is not. He is staying in Russia.
Yeah, I saw a news article says that he said he will not break their protocol even with private.
Yeah, he's
As
as
of
of now,
I
he's
guess-
staying there.
I am very convinced that Khabib bitched out and then he fucking ran away because he's got a direct line to fucking Putin. He's got him in his cell phone. I ain't fucking buying that shit at all. I think
I'm
that he
right there with
wasn't
you.
making. I think this was kind of what happened. I don't think that he's afraid to fight Tony, but I think under the circumstances he was. I think that he was thinking this fight ain't going to happen. They already canceled 3 UFCs. They're probably going to cancel this one. And he wasn't cutting weight the way he should have. And he was 20 pounds overweight, and the fight was getting closer and closer. And Dana was saying, it's happening, it's happening. And he's like, shit. I'm going to Russia.
Right. Well, there's actually several different reports from people who've been working with him in his quote unquote training camp he had in San Jose before he left that have said this is the biggest they have ever seen him. Like, he wasn't even anticipating this fight ever coming to fruition. Like, he didn't start his proper weight cut at all before he left for Russia. And this isn't the first time. We heard all throughout the last time when he fought Conor, he had what his team described as the roughest weight cut of his entire career. There's a lot of rumors that say that Khabib might realistically be done at 55 because he just can't make it anymore. It was always a serious problem for him to begin with, to the extent that early on they were calling him the male version of Cyborg because of the difficulty he was having with his weight cut. It was that serious. So you might actually be right on the money here. This might have been a calculated move because he couldn't have made weight if he wanted to in the next 2 weeks.
So, does Dana strip him of the title? That's the real question.
And that's the $1 million question. And the funny thing is that we've got Jon Jones, who's gotten in trouble here. No talk of being stripped this time. Then we've got Khabib, who made the calculated decision of his own volition to leave the country and then throw his entire fucking title defense and possibly, the majority of the card into disarray. Do we strip him for that? Because that's a conscious decision that he made as well. Jon Jones chose to drink and get behind the wheel and fucking fire his gun off downtown. Khabib chose to get on a plane knowing what was going on, knowing the lockdown in Russia was coming, and then volunteered after they gave him a fucking legal loophole to get out to stay there and keep everything thrown out the window. Like, realistically, how much do we let him get away with? How fucking long is the leash for champions these days? Because it seems to me, at least, it's a little longer than it fucking needs to be right now. We need to yank that shit back a little.
So
Go ahead, Fresh. Go ahead.
There's rules for being a professional fighter.
Yep.
You make weight. You show the fuck up for your fight. You do your fight. You don't get in trouble prior to the fight. After your fight, you can go do whatever the fuck you want.
Basically.
You signed a contract for this fucking fight. You're a professional fucking fighter, Khabib. You're having a rough time of it because you don't think this fight's actually going to happen. You don't think Dana's going to pull it off. And then you run and you go fucking duck again. And I don't think he should be scared of Tony. I don't think he should be scared of him. I think he can take him. I think Khabib in his proper form can take almost anybody. As hard as it is to watch him wrestle fuck people to death, he can do it to anybody.
It's effective.
Anybody.
It is that. And I say that all the time. I don't care how much I like you or don't like you. I try to give credit where credit is due. And I'm not shy or I am completely unabashed about saying I don't fucking like Khabib. I don't like his wrestle fuck style. I don't like his attitude. I don't like him. But his wrestle fucking is effective. I will give credit where it's due.
Yep. And like I don't know why he's stuck this fight as many. I mean, sure, there was a couple of unfortunate incidents that happened that no, like God said, no, we can't, we don't need this fight in the world. Just go ahead and let's go ahead and not do this one this time. But this is his fault. This is all his fault, and it's not the first time that it's been his fault.
That also puts it.
I say strip him, interim fucking title, and when things get back to normal, you can come back and give it another shot.
Yep.
But you made this decision. You don't get to be the champion anymore. Because you had one job to do. Hang around in San Jose.
Right.
Make your weight. Make it to the fight. Don't fuck up before the fight. That's it.
And that's not hard for him because as much as I dislike him, the dude's a man of ethos.
Yeah.
He does everything the same way all the time. He knows what he's doing. He's very methodical about what he's doing. Before every fight, each and every fight he's in. But he definitely made a conscious decision to get the fuck out. He didn't stick around going, oh, well, it's a month out. Why the fuck are you going to leave right now knowing that this is coming. Yes, they canceled 3, but they didn't cancel your card. That was the one they said they were going to stick on. They will figure it out. Obviously, if Submission Underground can figure out how to do it in a fucking corn silo, I'm pretty sure
Right.
that Big Daddy Dana has enough pull around a lot of places that he can get it done. Now, on the opposite side of that, I get it. You want to be home with your family during shitty, rough times. Perfectly acceptable. But your job, you signed a contract. Once you sign that contract, that's legal and binding, period. It's no different than you're joining the military, you sign the contract, you're fucking in. Suck it up, buddy.
Yep.
You stay where you need to be. You go where you're told. You go to wherever they say the fight is going to be, and you show up. You make weight. If you miss weight, you get stripped. Whatever. I don't care if you're fat and overweight when you get there. You're still going to fight, but you're going to be fucking stripped. It's just not acceptable. And to be honest, I was looking forward to this fight, but we called it months and months ago when they said it. We said specifically something will come up. Either somebody's going to get injured or some other worldly fucking event is going to happen that's going to stop this from happening.
Right.
In
Not that
this
we could have
case-
foreseen a pandemic, but still, we knew something.
Yeah. We still called it nonetheless.
Yeah.
This fight has been doomed. This is the 5th time.
Yeah.
And look, as much as I hate to say this, I still want to see this fight.
Everybody wants to see this fight.
Look,
I don't. I'm off. I'm off the train. I'm cashing in my ticket for the refund.
Look,
I'm done. 5 times.
You
this
can
is,
be off the
this
train.
is
That's
3 and
fine.
2. This is 3 and 2 at pullouts in favor of Khabib. Now, granted, that's still, it shows that they've both fucked up. But at this point, for whatever reason, it doesn't seem like both of them want this bad enough. And to make a fight of the size that this was scheduled originally to be, both parties have to be equally as excited about it. And at this point, it just doesn't seem, for me at least, like both of them are as interested now as they were when it first started to get made or tried to get made.
See, and here's where I have the only problem with that. I have to give a pass on this one, simply for the fact of what's currently going on in the state of the world. Now, if this had been for any other reason, fuck it, I'm over it. But because of what's currently going on, I still think this is a very viable fight that needs to happen. It's not going to happen right now, obviously, but down the road, after they've stripped him, run an interim title fight, whether it's Tony and Gaethje, Tony and whoever, whatever.
Gaethje already said he'll step in.
Right.
Yeah, and so did Poirier, and so did
Right.
fucking a whole bunch of other idiots are throwing their names in the hat that don't belong there. I watch. Maybe it'll be Tony and fucking Cowboy, because they always call Cowboy in last minute situations.
Well, if you look, Tony actually did a couple of short interviews via teleconference with Brett Okamoto this week, and actually said that if the choice is up to him, he wants to fight Conor. And I was actually just talking with somebody about this earlier today. For my money, and granted, I'm not Dana White, I have no fucking control over the UFC. This is just for me as a fucking fan. What I would like to see happen so that it seems at least somewhat fair for everyone going forward based on what we're dealing with. Strip Khabib. Fuck him. He made his choice. That belt's off his fucking waist. If we keep 249 on, let Tony and Conor fight for the interim belt. Since Khabib is so fucking highly praised on Gaethje because he said immediately once he got to Russia that they should just let Gaethje take his place and fight Tony. Since he's so fucking high on Gaethje, let Khabib fight Justin when he gets back. Winner faces winner. Keep the belt in rotation. Keep everybody fighting. Keep all the top fighters at the top of the stack, even though I don't think Gaethje belongs there, but whatever. It keeps the rotation moving. It keeps the top fighting over the top. It keeps the belt going and active. And it puts a little fucking humble on that chip that Khabib has on his fucking shoulder, I think.
Yeah, it's a really shitty situation for the way that this is all played out, and unfortunately, this is not something anybody could see coming.
No.
To be honest, I expected one of them to get injured.
Yeah,
before the fight.
I figured, realistically, what I anticipated happening was going to be an issue with Khabib in the weight cut. I didn't really so much see an injury. Realistically speaking, I anticipated Khabib having an issue with his weight cut coming into this fight, based on what's been going on.
I saw that happening too because we've known he's a big fucking 155er.
Oh yeah,
Very,
he walks around over 200 pounds. It's well documented. He walks around at like 210 and cuts to 55.
yeah, it's fucking ridiculous. But either way, I have to give a pass on this. I still want to see this fight, whether it's for a fucking title or not. I don't care if the title's involved.
I think that would actually change it for me a little bit, legitimately. I think if we strip Khabib at this point and let the division move on, and then maybe in the fall, maybe next spring when this one was originally scheduled to make, next April per se, put Tony and Khabib as a regular match, non-title, I would absolutely be more interested in that than I am these two holding up the fucking division trying to make this shit happen for a 6th time for the belt.
Well, and see, that's the thing is, I don't care if the belt's involved or not. The belt makes it more interesting right now, but since this isn't going to happen, fuck it. Let them fight down the line. Whether one of them has an interim title, whether one of them has a title, or neither one of them have a title, I don't give a shit.
Right.
As many times as this has been slotted, they need to fight at least once, just because otherwise this is going to be one of those that goes down in the history as a what if.
Coulda, shoulda, wouldas. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I don't want to have that, knowing how many times I've had the chance to see this fight that just it could be, in my opinion, it has legendary fight written all over it.
It absolutely has potential to be a Hall of Fame caliber fight. I agree.
I'm still not over it. I'm mad that it's not going to happen now, but in the future, they need to figure out a way to put this shit together and maybe do it a short notice for those two fuckers. You both have 3 months. That's it. Don't book this shit 6 more. What were they booked it out 7 or 8 months
7
in
months,
advance?
yeah, almost 8 months, yeah.
Yeah, no, give them 3 months. You have just enough time for a fucking camp. Get to work. We'll see you in 3 months, motherfuckers. Let's go.
Yeah, because Ramadan's coming up too. Like,
Yep.
what the fuck?
Yeah,
like,
so that's going to lock out most of the summer for him as well. Yeah, no, that's
and
that's one of those things.
During Ramadan.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that, far be it from me, whatever your particular personal belief system is, good for you. If it works for you, hats the fuck off for you. Far be it for me to tell you what to believe or give you a fucking earful about what I believe. What I will say, though, is that if you're a professional fighter, you need to be a professional fighter. And the thing about Khabib is that even though he's a professional fighter, he's a Muslim first. So he will adjust his fight schedule around his religious schedule. Like I said, your belief system is yours, but when your belief system starts to interfere with your job, now we have to start to have a conversation about it. On top of everything else we've got going on with Khabib, now he's going to have to miss, a quarter of the rest of the year because of different religious obligations that he's committed to.
I actually have no problem with him observing his religious, everything that he's going to have to go through in the next few months. I've got no problem with it. I have a problem with him picking up.
Given the current circumstances, yeah. Now he's made it a problem. Exactly.
Fucking running.
Exactly.
Because
now he's made it an issue.
It's almost a contest at this point between Tony and Khabib of who's going to drop out next. Yep. So you would think like he would just be like, nope, it ain't going to be me. It ain't going to be me. But instead he's just like, yeah, I'm going to go to Russia.
Yep. Well, even Connor tweeted, in the game of chicken that has been this fight, Khabib turned the wheel first this time, making it 3-2 in favor of Khabib versus Tony. But either way, fuck, right? Fuck.
They say it is a best out of 5, right?
I mean, I don't know that there is a best out of these 5 so far.
On a lighter note, if you guys want something really funny, go back and watch Uncle Chael's fucking...
The breakdown talk?
His April Fool's video.
Oh, yeah.
It is fucking hilarious. Just go back and look at his April 1st video, and he's talking specifically about Khabib and Tony, and it is fucking great.
So,
Chael Sonnen is
Uncle Chael
to the rest of the world.
Yeah, aside from his fighting career, which unto itself was also pretty fucking spectacular, what he's done since he's taken the gloves off and outside of the octagon, just beautiful. So to kind of tie along and help move this along a little bit, the next thing I do want to talk about here, since we have found out that 249 is potentially still a thing, but also still in jeopardy of not having the main event that it literally has been built around for almost a year now, we have had several short notice options of fighters who, like we said, have come out of the woodwork volunteering to step up on that short notice and take that spotlight that has been focused up until now around the potential for Tony and Khabib 5, which we now know is out the window. The biggest one so far, though, and the one that Dana White himself has said that he is actually considering possibly doing, would be a last-minute fight between Colby Covington and Tyrone Woodley to save the 249 headline situation, as it were. And to make it that much more interesting, once Dana said that he is willing to actually consider this being a short notice main event fight for 249's headline, Tyron Woodley came out and doubled down, issuing another press statement that said not only is he willing and able to take this fight and will fight Colby on short notice for the headline at 249, he's done hearing Colby's shit talking, and if he doesn't take this fight now, he's not going to fight Colby again. He's scratching his name off the list and he's moving along with his fucking career. So this potentially is Colby's last chance to get that fight that he himself has been saying for 3+ fucking years now that he wants. He's the guy to beat Tyquill Woodley. That's all Colby's shtick originally was, long before the Marty from Nebraska thing came to be. His whole shtick was going at Woodley, that he could beat Woodley. He was better than Woodley. Here's your last fucking chance, Big Mouth, because Woodley said that this is your shot. Not only is he going to give you the fight, it's going to be a fucking main event on one of the most anticipated cards we have seen. And if you don't want this fucking fight, you don't get the smoke then. Get off the fucking list.
Yep.
If we don't get Khabib Tony or we don't get Tony Connor, that's the only acceptable option, in my opinion. Get that fucking fight out there. That's the only grueling grudge match we've got going that has been going as long as this Tony and Khabib thing has. And I think realistically it's the only real grudge we have going right now, aside from the John and DC thing that's kind of fizzled, that would realistically still be able to save a card in this much trouble right now.
So here's the deal. For those out there in the audience who don't know who Colby Covington is,
I'm sorry.
Colby Covington has turned the world of MMA into the WWE.
Very
He
much.
works a character. He works as a bad guy. He walks around with MAGA hats on. He runs his mouth on like extreme right-handed political shit.
Yeah.
He doesn't believe any of this, by the way. If you've seen his other interviews before he decided to put this act on, this is not the person he is. But he's created this aura about himself that like people will tune in to watch him get his ass kicked, and that's probably what'll happen if he fights Woodley.
Most likely,
he's probably gonna get wrecked. But people will pay good money to watch this dude get his ass beat. And you know he had a fairly solid run there for a minute.
Yeah,
then he that last fight where it was two wrestlers and they just duked it out, and it was an okay fight. Everybody seems to think it's a way better fight than it was. I don't see that it was all that great of a fight, but it was good. It was a good fight.
Yeah.
It was two people who probably shouldn't be striking at each other.
Yeah, which is kind of how we thought it was going to go.
Yeah, we called exactly what was going to happen. But yeah, people will tune in to see. I mean, that could totally save 249. Like that would totally save 249. Is those two getting lined up just to watch Colby Covington take another ass whooping.
Right. Well, and the thing that's important about Colby's story is that Colby Covington didn't always, like you said, he wasn't always this MAGA persona that he is now. If you go back and you look, Colby Covington was literally just your average run-of-the-mill, decently talented, but nothing spectacular fighter. Got into the UFC, had a couple of decent matches, but wasn't anything exciting, and the UFC said that they were going to cut him loose if he didn't start to, draw a little more excitement around him, because they clearly got plenty of mediocre, average, enthusiast fighters. And then the switch flipped. And all of a sudden, you see him coming out in these literal, like, $2 fucking thrift store suits, this bright red MAGA hat. He's always carrying a copy of Donald Jr.'s book with him, and he just starts spitting this further and further extremely really right-wing, political bullshit, and he's literally turned it into a steamroller of a character.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just that. It's a character. And sometimes people have a little bit of a difficult time differentiating between Colby the persona and Colby the person. Because when the cameras turn on, so does that personality. Every time. Doesn't matter where, how long, what the circumstance is. When the camera comes on, so does the Colby persona. So he very much has embodied that WWE aspect of it.
And works.
And yeah, and he works it to a fucking degree that's infuriating as a fucking MMA fan and laughable as just a fucking combat sport entertainment fan.
Dude, he's selling tickets.
He's selling fucking tickets.
Well,
Yeah.
which that's going to keep him gainfully employed no matter how terrible he does or how well he does.
Absolutely.
If he's selling seats, Big Daddy Dana's going to find a way to get him in there.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, in my argument always is it's easy to be yourself. It's easy to be the nice guy. But when you're actually putting on that act and you're getting threats in your DMs all fucking day,
Yeah.
but you're doing that for the love of the sport and for the love of staying into that sport.
To stand as the heel.
I like shit like that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Which is why you like aluminum Mike Perry.
I don't like aluminum Mike Perry. I love aluminum Mike Perry.
Hey.
I was going to ask if you still call them the heels or not, but then Nick said it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, he's the heel.
Absolutely, he's absolutely the fucking heel for sure. Oh, but trying to move this along a little bit here so we don't lock you guys up for your whole Friday night. Couple more things I do want to address real quick before we get into our meat and potatoes, as it were. Again, due to this crazy fucking global pandemic situation that we're dealing with, we're getting one cancellation and postponement after another. As of right now, prospectively, knock on wood, it looks like once May to June gets here, things are going to start to get rescheduled and replanned, assuming, of course, that everything is back to healthy and normal by then. We won't know until then, but that's what we're looking at prospectively. So in the meanwhile, most organizations have announced that they are not officially canceling events, but they're just postponing them. The UFC has made a point to release a statement saying every event and fight that has been canceled or scrapped in the interim time now will be rebooked as soon as it's able to. These aren't being canceled, they're just going to be moved because everything has to be put on hold at the moment. We did get another list of a couple more events that have, due to this crazy situation we're in, been postponed for the immediate future. Bellator officially announced Bellator 242, Bellator 243, and the upcoming Bellator London card will all three officially be postponed because, again, those were all coming up before the beginning of June. Again, Scott Coker, much like Dana White and UFC, has said all of these fights will be rescheduled. They are not canceled. It's just, while we got to deal with what we got to deal with right now, we got to put some other things on the back burner. In that same vein, we had probably the biggest announcement worldwide of postponement of an event. The 2020 Summer Olympics have now officially also been postponed. Not canceled, but again, due to the craziness of the situation we have on the world right now, the official Summer Olympics will be postponed and have been rescheduled to start July 21st, 2021. And they also answered another question that we were talking about last week when we actually hinted towards the possibility of the Olympics being postponed, how they were going to go forward with the other sets of Olympics being timed around that with a very set delay that they have in the Olympics. They officially confirmed that as well. They are taking this delay and considering it part of these Olympics. There will be no extended delay between the end of the summer 2021 Olympics and the beginning of the winter 2022 Olympics. They have 18 months from the time these end to the time the next one starts. They're not given any breaks. They're just kind of taking the time off as a loss and they're moving along with it. So
I think that's kind of what we figured.
I kind of agree too.
Yeah, there's so much money involved in Olympic Games.
Yeah, well, and you got to think how far out they plan this as well.
Yeah, because you get what, like you get like 15 years notice that something's coming to your door, or something
10,
like
10
that.
Or 15,
something crazy.
like that.
So yeah, we kind of figured that was going to happen because there's so much money involved that the Olympics would just roll along like a boulder.
Yep.
Might have to slow one down, but the next one's sitting there ready to go.
Yeah, no, they have officially gotten the IOC together. They have got it all figured out. So we do know, unfortunately, because of the craziness going on, it is going to be delayed. But again, not canceled, and they've let us know that not only are they not canceling it, they're not even going to slow down the next set of Winter Olympics coming up. So at least for now, we've got some sort of a beginning plan looking towards the aftermath of the craziness that we're dealing with here. A couple other things I want to talk about real quick here before we get into the meat and potatoes, as it were. Again, with this global situation putting so many different events in jeopardy, so many main events of these different events in jeopardy, now looking at, because the fight 2 weeks ago rather, the last UFC card that was broadcast was actually broadcast from Brazil and almost wasn't able to be broadcast because Brazil was going into lockdown at that point in time. Excuse me. We actually ended up getting that event as the first empty stadiumed combat sports or sports event that went through the last round that we've seen. But because of the circumstances and because of the way the situation has unfolded, we might not be able to go back there for the Henry Cejudo versus Jose Aldo fight on UFC 251 coming up in, UFC 250 coming up in May. As of right now, rather than, doing the responsible thing and trying to wait and find out if it's going to be canceled or if we're going to move it or how we're going to do this, Cringe Hudo has already come out talking shit about how Aldo is in Brazil and is locked down in Brazil and we won't be able to have the event there, so they might as well find him another opponent to fight and defend his belt against, and he has called out Dominic Cruz. So we are at a point now where Henry Cejudo went from calling out a guy coming off of his loss debut to a new division for his title defense after talking about how he only wants to fight the best, air quotes. He has subsequently changed from that, as if that wasn't bad enough, to now wanting to fight a guy who hasn't been in the octagon in almost 3 years, who has had multiple surgeries since he was in the octagon 3 years ago. But, Henry Cejudo only wants to fight the best.
All I can say is fuck that guy.
It's so infuriating to see that fucking clown running around with a belt around his waist. The fact that they were willing to strip him of the 25 belt and not the 35 belt does not make any sense to me, because this is not, despite how much he tried to play it up, this is not the same situation we had with McGregor when McGregor was double champ. The second that McGregor even hinted towards wanting both belts, Dana White immediately said, if you get them both, we're taking one right away. You can't logjam 2 divisions. You can't carry 2 belts. You can have 2, but you can't carry 2 belts. Since then, we have seen literally every other double champion, and there have been several since then, but we have seen every single other champion since Conor be allowed to keep both of their belts and quite literally logjam 2 divisions, with the exception of Amanda Nunes, because that women's 145 division is far from logjam. There's 7 women in the division. There's plenty of room there. But the fact that Henry Cejudo is holding up 2 of the largest divisions in the UFC, and then when they finally got tired of his bullshit, stripped him of the 125-pound belt, but left him carrying the 135-pound belt going into surgery that was going to keep him from fighting for at least another 8 months. Now on top of that, we've got him trying to make a title fight for the 135-pound belt against a guy who has only had 1 fight in that division and lost it. That fight gets scrapped. Now he wants to change it and make another title defense against a guy who hasn't fought in over 3 years to begin with. How can you take this guy serious as a fucking champion? Aside from his bend the knee bullshit, just his in-ring, his actual fighting resume is becoming a fucking joke unto itself at this point.
And the heel doesn't work for him. It's not the same with Colby Covington.
Not at all. And that's the funny thing. He tried.
Yeah.
Yeah, he tries. so fucking hard. For those of you who don't know, Henry Cejudo wants more than anything in this fucking world to be able to play the heel half as well as Colby Covington does, and he cannot do it. He does not have the personality type. He does not have the fluidity of conversation or the quick-wittedness required to do something like that, but he still tries, and it just comes off so fucking hard to watch. Ugh. Fucking ugh. But, moving along from there, a couple more things and then we will get into meat and potatoes here. Probably the most important announcement I have as of right now on this particular news and recent events segment, not due to the current global situation and craziness that we are dealing with, but due to actual legitimate injury. We have already had what we were looking forward to after this UFC 249 card, most for the summer, the next UFC 251 big Perth card has already basically been thrown into jeopardy. We found out yesterday that Valentina Shevchenko, for a change, has actually pulled out of the UFC 251 fight for June 6th. She is injured. Her leg is an injury that she has had for a while, but it flared up again after she was busy kicking the shit out of Caitlin Chukagian. And it's just one of those things that she knows isn't a big issue, but could be if she doesn't get it taken care of. And seeing as how this JoJo fight is far from anything she really has to worry about, why not take a little extra time and just heal up properly? That way when she comes back, she can beat the shit out of JoJo without risking injuring herself anymore like she did when she beat Caitlin up. So, I mean, it sucks, but I get it at the same time. And unlike some other fighters who we talk about, if Valentina tells you she's pulling out because she's hurt, she's legitimately hurt. And she will be back the moment that she is fucking healed, waiting to beat the shit out of whoever is next, whether they give JoJo the run back or whether they put somebody else in her place. Valentina will be back as soon as she is legitimately healed, and we don't have to worry about that. She's one of the few fighters. Her word is gold. When she tells you this is how things went, you don't really have to wonder, and you can feel free to look into it. It's going to be how it was.
Yeah, it's tough to say that. Like she's out in Russia somewhere punching trees, like literally chopping trees in half by punching them. So yeah, if she said she's hurt, she's probably hurt.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll take her at her word.
So,
Thank
go ahead.
God she's healing up, because that's the one solid that's in the UFC guaranteed right now.
Right. So, two more quick little things I want to go over real quick before we get into meat and potatoes time. The first one, the latest in a long string of announcements that we've had here seeming to go this direction. I'm kind of excited to see where this is going, even though we've got everything on hold for the moment. Once things get back to somewhat of a sense of normalcy, or at least start to get back on track towards some sense of normalcy, and we can start to get fun things happening again, we had announced the day before yesterday the one and only Ill Will Brooks himself, former UFC fighter, former Bellator champion, former PFL fighter, has now officially signed with Aries Fighting Production. So this makes the sixth still valid, relevant, maybe not prime, but still valid and current fighter of UFC/Bellator prominence that has made their way over into the Aries organization. And we actually had the fight scheduler or fight booker for Aries post what would have been the fight card poster, similar to what the UFC does with all the fights on it, for what would have been this summer's coming up Aries 21 event, which would have had the debut of a Wilson Hayes, of a Juan Adams, of an Ill Will Brooks. It would have had 4 of the 6 recent acquisitions from the UFC and Bellator on the same fucking card before everything got canceled. So that's a silver lining kind of a situation. It sucks that we did get, all of our fucking summer plans canceled. On the plus side of it, though, we now know that we have got all sorts of talent starting to move back and forth between organizations again. It's not just at the point where we used to be, where you got to the UFC and then when you got released, you got to see where else you would go. The other organizations coming up along the UFC are starting to become legitimately valid, and we're starting to see guys who maybe not necessarily because of their ability were let go from the UFC, and then are taking that ability to other organizations and being legitimate contenders. And Aries specifically is starting to pick up a good bit of talent from all of these other organizations, and is definitely something that we're going to have to keep an eye on once we get all this craziness dealt with. The other thing I want to go over real quick here, we didn't do a What Did I Say show recap for it because it was on in the afternoon around the time we would have normally been doing that show, but Submission Underground 12 last weekend did kick off, like we mentioned earlier, in an empty corn silo with just the fighters, just the competitors, and the referee, and Chael Sonnen commentating by his motherfucking self. It was a hell of a thing to behold. There's only 2 real go-backs, rundowns, recaps, whatever you want to call it, that I want to talk about real quick before we get into meat and taters here. The first one, much as we wanted to see it, it didn't go down the way we wanted to. Carlos, the Natural Born Killer Condit, actually was not able to compete, and instead actually had 10th Planet's Ben Egley step in on short notice against one Jake Ellenberger. Not a very long match to begin with. Jake Ellenberger, while he was known in his MMA days for his wrestling, not the greatest of jiu-jitsu practitioners. Not the worst by any stretch of the imagination, but when you turn around and you talk about a guy a guy the likes of someone named Ben Egley, one of the 10th Planet badasses, you kind of had a feeling as soon as they announced that he was going to step in that this wasn't going to be good for Jake, and sure the fuck enough, it was not. Ben Egley is so fucking smooth, slid in and just absolutely choked the shit out of Jake Ellenberger. Tippity tap for that young man. The main event, the actual quote-unquote main event, even though we had another tag team jiu-jitsu competition kind of thing that was just weird, the actual main event that people wanted to see, the one that folks were talking about, Craig Leopard Print Jones versus King Kevin Casey. This was an interesting matchup from the get-go because Kevin Casey is a power wrestler, whereas Craig Jones is one of the Danaher Death Squad leg lock masters. He's a guy that if you leave your ankle, your knee from there down, really, anywhere exposed for more than 10 seconds, he's going to have you locked up and you're going to be crying. If you can keep him from, or unless you can keep him from getting to you. That's kind of how it went here. Kevin Casey is a strong motherfucker, and every time we saw Craig Jones try and go into his setup to drop the half guard to make a take for the ankle, Kevin Casey would either just put his head flat on his fucking hand or would squat down right in front of him, stopped him in his fucking tracks. Kevin Casey was just putting Craig Jones out to pasture every fucking time he came at him until the one time he didn't. And if you follow it all, the world of jiu-jitsu, it doesn't matter how great you are. Every time you stop something, all it takes is the one time that you can't to end your fucking night. And that's exactly what happened. Despite Kevin Casey looking fucking glorious and looking like he was going to upset the Cheetah Print man himself, nope. Craig Jones did what Craig Jones does, and he slid past that fucking guard in a beautiful move. And again, despite how I might feel about somebody, credit where credit is due, and that motherfucker is smooth. Props to Craig Jones himself. Now, this would be the point normally where we would dial back, we would get ready to wipe the foam away from our rabid mouths and woo-saw a little bit and calm down, because we were going to bring in our favorite casual to give her less than hardcore, we'll say, impact or take on the MMA event that's about to come up this weekend. But we don't have an MMA event coming up this weekend, and
no, we don't.
We don't have a particular casual. What we have is a combat sports entertainment event this weekend, and a panel full of casuals being led by our very own expert himself. So at this point, I would like to formally turn over the reins for this meat and potatoes segment of the meat and potatoes portion of our meat and potatoes time of show here to the one and only fresh03, and I will gladly sit back and resume my casuality.
Everyone, get casual. Get casual. So this is one of the most bizarre things that's ever happened in pro wrestling. The last several weeks have been empty arenas, or they did an empty arena, and then they canceled all their arenas and they moved everything to the WWE Performance Center, which is basically a little mini arena that they own, and the back of it's basically a gym where all the new guys go and work out until they're ready to move up to the big leagues, and they've scheduled this thing over 2 nights. 2 nights. So it's 2 nights worth of pro wrestling with no crowd. And pro wrestling, if you watch it, it feeds off the crowd. Like those wrestlers feed off that crowd, and they work their matches in a style that is very complimentary to the crowd being there. The good guy is getting beat up until it's time for him to make his comeback, and it's been really bizarre to watch. Like there's been some excellent wrestling. Like a lot of these matches have a lot of potential. But 16 matches over 2 nights, like it's just a ton of pro wrestling. And normally you get an NXT takeover, which is the little guys that are working out in the back. They go and they pour their hearts out on the night before WrestleMania or whatever the big pay-per-view is. And then you get the meat and potatoes, which usually isn't nearly as good as that NXT show is. So yeah, we've got 16 matches. I don't think we have time to get through all 16 matches, but I'll run down the card. So we've got the Miz and John Morrison versus the Usos versus the New Day, and I don't think Miz is able to actually take part in this match because he was sick when he showed up to film the match. All these matches have been filmed, by the way, everybody. It's going through production. They're getting it ready to air. So I don't know that the Miz is going to be able to take place in this match, but the Miz and John Morrison versus the Usos versus the New Day for the SmackDown Tag Team Championship in a ladder match. All three of these teams are always excellent, always excellent. And the fact that they're putting them all in a ladder match, which means they get to just lose their minds and perform all the big crazy bumps and taking these crazy leaps off ladders and falling through ladders that are at ringside, and it's going to be crazy, and everybody is really good in this match. So I anticipate that being one of the openers for one of the nights. They haven't really said where things are going to take place either, so we don't know what matches are happening on what night. So it's just kind of sit back for a couple hours and watch and see what goes on. And it's been the typical build up, the bad guys, Miz and Morrison, and then you have the two new guys, and the bad guys trick the good guys into attacking each other, and so it's a typical build up. There's it's not a lot of hype in this match, but just the people that are involved, they're all really good at this type of match, so it should be a ton of fun. And then you've got Otis versus Dolph Ziggler, and this one is about Mandy Rose, who is one of the female wrestlers on the roster. Otis is supposed to be a big old fat dumb guy, and then Dolph Ziggler's the real slick handsome guy who's the bad guy in the story. Kind of an interesting twist on this though is like these two have been going back and forth to each other trying to win this girl's favor, and she basically came out and said, "I'm not a fucking prize," and walked off. So it's kind of an interesting take on how things typically go in the WWE. Like it used to be like, what if Hulk Hogan wins, Miss Elizabeth is his. So yeah, there's all sorts of stupidity, but yeah, it's been actually a really fun story. It's been a real fun story between those two, but I mean it's typical good guy versus bad guy stuff. Dolph Ziggler's tremendous. Otis is still pretty new to the scene. So I anticipate Dolph Ziggler controlling most of the match and selling like crazy and probably getting his ass beat at the end, but don't know. Then we have the Kabuki Warriors versus Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. There was basically no build up to this match at all. Like last week, the Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross came out and said, we want a tag team title shot. at the Kabuki Warriors, which is Asuka and Kairi Sane. Asuka and Kairi Sane are, quite frankly, two of the best wrestlers on the WWE's roster. Both of those ladies are absolutely incredible. And then Nikki Cross she's a longtime wrestler. And then Alexa Bliss has been one of the bright spots of the WWE over the last several years. Not the best in-ring worker, but she has a personality that's just insane. Like if she gets a microphone and starts talking shit to somebody, like it's amazing to watch. So probably be a fun little match. Like I said, there's basically zero build up to this one. It's just these four ladies happen to live around that area, so they're going to let them have a match. So that's going to be kind of the running theme for a lot of this. But I anticipate that one being actually, that has a tendency to be, or it has the ability to be one of those show stealing matches. All four ladies are that good. So although if they wind up on the card with a match that's a little bit up, they have no chance of stealing the show. Street Profits versus the Street Profits, who are a new young tag team. They just won the Raw Tag Team Championship. They're real popular with the millennials and the younger kids, because they come out crip walking and they're sipping in their solo cups and dancing around and come through the crowd, and everybody loves them. There's no crowd now, so they can't do that gimmick. So they'll probably just dance on the stage. They'll probably just dance on the stage. But they're fighting Austin Theory and Angel Garza, who are two of the younger folks. They normally work on NXT, both of those guys, which is the kind of it's not the minor leagues anymore, because it's on USA now. They're calling it a third brand, but it used to be the minor league and still kind of has that feel. Both of those guys are still working down there most of the time. Austin Theory is a tremendous personality and an okay wrestler. So we'll see how he gets himself over. But then there's Angel Garza, who basically has everything. He's a really good looking guy. He's real fucking scummy, and he's amazing in the ring. So I'm hoping that Angel Garza works most of that match, and he's just as scuzzy as Rick Rude ever was. After that, we've got Sami Zayn versus Daniel Bryan. That right there, put a thumbtack in that match right there, everybody. If they get the amount of time that they deserve to work a match, this is also for the Intercontinental Championship, which is the Workers' Championship. You know, the best worker in the company carries the Intercontinental Championship around. Sami Zayn versus Daniel Bryan. These are two of the best pro wrestlers in the world, period. No ifs, ands, or buts. Like, it's when these two are on their game and they're working against someone who's of their caliber, it's incredible. And these two are two of the best, and they are going to be working against each other, and they'll probably get like a 20-25 minute match out the deal, just because they can. Hi, Mimi. She heard me talking about wrestling. She need to come talk about it too. Yes, this is that right there. It doesn't matter which night that's on. This is like Chris Jericho fighting Shawn Michaels back in the day. Like, when those two booked a match against each other, everybody else on the card went, well, fuck, we can't have a good match. Why should we even try? That's how good those two are. And that's how good that match is going to be. It's going to be amazing. After that is Elias versus King Corbin. This entire program that these two are working is around the fact that Elias likes to follow King Corbin around and sing songs that insult him. And that's enough for them to have a match on WrestleMania. Elias is a solid worker. Corbin he's an okay worker with a good personality. So he's a really, really good bad guy. I'm not really. That'll probably be the match I get up and go take an extra long piss in. Just saying. I'm not really all that particularly interested in what happens in that match. Could turn out to be the match of the night, but both guys are certainly capable of it. I just haven't seen it in the program they've been working. So after that is Kevin Owens fight. Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins, the Monday Night Messiah. And so there's going to be hijinks in this one, everybody. There is going to be hijinks in this one. Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins has an entourage of people that follow him around. So they are going to be cheating in the match, sneaking into the match. these two are, if they were just left to their own devices, are perfectly capable of having a match that would be up there with Bryan and Sami Zayn. They would be capable of doing that. They're both incredible workers. Incredible workers. Kevin Owens may not look like the swiftest dude in the ring. Like he just kind of looks like some dude you'd run into like working at a gas station. He's kind of chubby. He's super, super strong, but like the dude flies around like a cruiserweight. Like he's such an incredible worker, and he's one of the best personalities in the WWE. So yeah, these two have they both have the capability of being the best. They both have the capability of putting on the best match on the card. I just don't think that it's going to happen. I think the WWE is going to book some hijinks because that's who Seth Rollins is these days. But Seth Rollins actually, like, he carried the entire show on his back for like almost a year. Like he had the Intercontinental Championship, and he came out and he would do these open challenges, and he would fight. They would put on these matches. They'd pull guys from NXT who were supposed to be real good in the ring. They'd pull guys from other shows, and he would put on just every week. It was the best match. It was the best match of the week. Every week, every week, every week. And since they morphed him into this character, he's not doing that. He's working the shenanigans, and which, I mean, that happens. That happens when you turn someone into a bad guy. They're supposed to work the shenanigans. It's just kind of a shame because if these guys got like 20, 25 minutes just by themselves, they have the ability to put on a match that would just be mind-boggling. So I'm anticipating getting my heart broken on that one. But dark horse match could be dark horse match of the weekend. Bayley versus Naomi versus Tamina versus Lacey Evans versus Sasha Banks. A fatal 5-way match for the SmackDown Women's Championship. All of them are really good workers individually. I just saw some clips of what they were up to tonight, and if they're going to go balls to the wall the way they were in that match, this has the potential to be fucking awesome. Because when all 5 of these ladies are just allowed to just go and not really be limited by TV time or anything like that, get a decent amount of time, like there'll be people bleeding, people getting flipped off the top of the rope onto the floor, and they'll just go crazy. All 5 of them will just go crazy, and I'm hoping that's what they're allowed to do, is just lose their minds, because WWE is probably going on hold for a couple months after WrestleMania. So yeah, keep your eye on that one, everybody. The Bayley, Naomi, Tamina, Lacey Evans, Sasha Banks fight. It's gonna be awesome. Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair, who is Ric Flair's daughter. So if you guys didn't know that, there you go. She comes out in the full Ric Flair robes, goes woo every time she chops somebody, misses moonsaults all the time, does all sorts of crazy bumps like Ric Flair. She is way more talented in the ring than Ric Flair ever was, though. Like, she is freaking amazing. She's an amazing worker. And she's taking on probably the hottest prospect in the WWE right now. The Metal Maiden herself, Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley is out of Australia. She's only been wrestling for about 3 years, but she has put together probably a year comparable to Becky Lynch, the Man. I'm sure at this point even casual people have heard the name Becky Lynch. Yeah, she's so Becky will be on later in the card. Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair has potential to be a really, really good match. I'm a little worried about Rhea Ripley. She can get a little bit sloppy in the ring, but if they have time, since all of this was pre-recorded, I'm sure it'll be fantastic. They've had time to work their spots to perfection, get the right camera angles, all that good stuff. Yeah. So I'm sure it's going to be a really good match. Kind of the big thing about this, though, is Charlotte Flair's been on the main roster carrying the women's division for years. And she's fighting for the NXT Women's Championship, which is basically the lowest level of WWE programming. And so there's a thought that she might actually go back down to NXT and work with all these younger gals, and they'll move Rhea Ripley up, which, I mean, it would make total sense. Rhea Ripley's one of the hottest things they've had since, like I said, Becky Lynch. So it would be really, really interesting to see Charlotte Flair, take kind of a back seat, honestly, and go back down to NXT and work with some of these younger ladies and put on probably some really, really fucking amazing matches. So I'm happy. I would actually be happy if she won and took it down Rhea Ripley stayed up and kind of took her spot and just started rampaging around the roster, because it's fun to watch her when she's just tossing other women around the ring. Next after that is, man, so many matches. Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler. Meter probably recognizes that name, Shayna Baszler.
Very familiar sounding.
Yes, Shayna Baszler is out of the world of MMA. She was kind of the first one to make the jump over to pro wrestling and see kind of what this deal is about, as far as the ladies go. And she has put together one of the best careers anybody's ever had. She's shaped herself into this dominant, just bloodthirsty woman who will just, if any opportunity comes up, she's going to break something. And if she can't break it, she's going to choke you out. And she's transformed herself into this. And she's no spring chicken. I think she turned 36 or 37 a couple of weeks ago. And has only been doing this for 3 or 4 years, but she has really, really caught on to the game. And she's turned into just an amazing, amazing wrestler. And her character is amazing because she just doesn't give a shit about anybody. And so she's fighting Becky Lynch, who is arguably the biggest star in the WWE right now. Believe it or not, the ladies have taken over everybody. So yeah, I don't see Becky Lynch making it out of this one, because they've built up Baszler to just be this monster. And so I think it's going to be a ton of fun. I think the two of them can work a really, really, really good match together. I think they'll probably have some really good in-ring chemistry based on the few times they've crossed each other. So I think it should be amazing. I think that one's going to be amazing. I think it'll probably headline one of the cards. I think it's that big of a match. We haven't even gotten to the real fun stuff. Here we go, Addy Tooney. Edge and Randy Orton.
There we go.
Edge and Randy Orton in a last man standing match. This will be Edge's second match back. He got diagnosed with spinal stenosis.
That doesn't sound good.
Yeah, he had prior to the Royal Rumble, he hadn't been in the WWE ring for 9 years.
As I say, it was almost a decade he was gone. Yeah,
almost a decade he was gone. The Rated R superstar himself, Edge, is back. He got his neck worked on. Went through physical therapy. He strengthened up his muscles, and apparently he's okay to go, because he's taken some rough shots. He's taken some real rough shots. So
Randy Orton, isn't that Rin's boy?
That is Rin's boy.
That's
Randy Orton.
Rin's celebrity crush. That's right.
The prettiest man in pro wrestling today, Randy Orton. Also the evilest man in pro wrestling today. He's fun to watch. He's fun to watch, just to watch him, because he's one of those guys that can almost convince you what he's about to do is right. Like he's that good. He's that good at talking. The first thing he did on Monday Night Raw, when Edge was back sitting there, he came out and he was cutting this big promo. Yeah, I'm back. Randy Orton lays him out with a chair, puts a chair under his face, gets another chair, and smashes his head in with another chair. And then comes out the next week, and he's like, Edge, I did it because I love you. It's the only way I could stop you. And you're like, it almost makes sense in a really, really evil kind of way. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. Randy Orton can work with anybody, and put on at least a decent match. Edge looked pretty darn good. Obviously, he's not going to be the Edge of old. He's lost some steps. Bye, Nick. He has to go over to Tommy.
I was going to say, Nick Devine's got to run. He's going to go over to Tommy's.
He didn't even get to make any predictions. Anyway, so Randy Orton versus Edge. I think that has the possibility of also headlining one of the nights, just because they've been building it up, and it's been a really, really good build-up. After that, we've got Brock Lesnar, who also may be familiar to MMA fans. Brock Lesnar versus Drew McIntyre, who may not be familiar to MMA fans. Brock Lesnar has been back in the WWE. He refused to re-sign with UFC a little bit ago. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty sure he still has his name in the pool, but he's basically done with MMA at this point, I think.
And he officially retired. He did officially retire from MMA. Basically, he played Vince McMahon and Dana White against each other for about 8 months. with a potential quote unquote big match in both MMA and WWE, and literally openly told the two, Vince McMahon and Dana White, that whoever could give him the biggest check and the most benefits would get the remainder of his career.
Yeah.
Dana White,
I mean,
for the large
Vin-
checkbook that he has, really can't compete with Vince McMahon. If it's a dick measuring contest when it comes to checkbooks, Vince has just got
Well,
that
I mean,
longevity.
the thing about Lesnar's schedule with the WWE is he only has to work so many dates a year. Like he doesn't have to work house shows like the rest of everybody.
Right.
He gets flown in like 12 times a year. Walks in, throws people over the top of his head, like the
Literally.
freak of a person that he is. And just, yeah. So, but he's fighting someone that is equally as big as he is at this point. And he's younger, and he's got a lot of crowd support, at least as far as like the internet chatter goes. Everybody kind of loves Drew McIntyre because he's playing a good guy, but he's really not all that good, because what he does is he'll just run around and just wreck people. So like he'll hit his finisher in the ring, and he'll get up and get ready to pin him, and the crowd will go one more time. So he's like, fuck it, steps back and kicks the dude in the face again. So that's how this guy becomes this is how you become a good guy in pro wrestling. The crowd wants you to bleed somebody, you bleed them. So that's who Drew McIntyre is. He's about 6'8", damn near 300 pounds, big old Scottish boy. So, but he's been around the game for quite a while, even being as young as he is. He's only like 32. Because he started with the WWE when he was like 19.
Wow.
And then got kicked out of the WWE because he was basically going nowhere, spinning his wheels. Went and flied us straight on the Indies for a couple of years, and then WWE signed him back, and he's been a wrecking ball since. So, I mean, that one, I think Drew McIntyre's taking it just because you want to give the crowd that gratification, at least on one of the nights, have one of the big champions get taken down. So, I mean, it's always a good time to watch Brock Lesnar lose a wrestling match, because people think he's a dick, but I mean, he's a pretty good dude in the ring. Like he'll do the right thing for the business, and not ask questions about it. So I think that's kind of what'll happen. The other big hotly contended one, the Fiend himself, Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt, who runs around looking like a member of Slipknot, is wrestling John Cena. And his name is John Cena. In a Firefly Funhouse match. There's only been one other of these. Only one other of these Firefly Funhouse matches. And basically, it involved Randy Orton. And basically the two of them threw each other through walls in a house for about 10 minutes. So that's probably what you can that's probably what you can expect to see from this one. The first one was, I mean, it was kind of fun to see for the first couple of minutes, but then it just kept going. So that's kind of what I anticipate seeing in this one. But I mean, John Cena, he's trying to be The Rock. He's trying to be a movie star. He's not really wrestling anymore. They got him involved just to draw some folks to the card. So John Cena, they call him Big Match John. So we'll see where this goes. Next, right now they have it listed as Goldberg versus to be determined. That was determined during the show. Bill Goldberg will be defending the WWE Universal Championship. Believe it or not, he's the Universal Champion at damn near 60 years old. Still looks fucking yacked, like nobody's business. He's fighting Braun Strowman, who is he's a lot of fun to watch too, because he's kind of like Drew McIntyre. Like he just fucks shit up. Like if you've watched over the last couple of years, or you've seen any like WWE memes, like there was one of a dude standing by a bush like yelling at someone, and then all of a sudden there's a great big huge dude that comes and hits him and knocks him off his feet and flying for like 10 feet. That was Braun Strowman. If you saw an image of a guy tipping an ambulance over onto somebody, that was Braun Strowman. All he does is wreck stuff. He's fighting Goldberg. Braun Strowman's been in line for a long time. Like he's gotten a couple of shots at the WWE Championship and the Universal Championship, but he's never gotten the job done. I'm kind of hoping Braun Strowman gets it, and then he can just go on a warpath. Like it's always a lot of fun to watch him just tipping shit over onto people. So, and that brings us to the last one, the last match. I can't believe I got through all of them before Tommy's show. Undertaker versus AJ Styles. AJ Styles is probably the best wrestler of this generation. Undertaker was arguably the best wrestler of a couple generations ago. He has slowed down a lot. He does not look like the same guy he used to be. He's put on about four stinker matches in the last little bit. And if anybody can save him, if anybody can save Undertaker from himself, it's AJ Styles. So I am hesitantly looking forward to that. Looking forward to AJ Styles versus The Undertaker, just because I want to see kind of what AJ Styles is able to drag kicking and screaming from the leftovers of the man that used to be known as The Undertaker. Undertaker is what, 55, 56? Yeah, 56, he's almost 60 now too. Yeah. It's tough to believe, you watch these guys forever and you forget that they're aging right along with you. Like Goldberg's almost 60.
Yeah.
These guys have been around for so long and been watching them, been fans of them for a long time. Not a big Goldberg fan, never was, but he's a good dude. He's a really good dude. Just not a fan of him in the ring.
Oh. Didn't The Undertaker, he started wrestling in I want to say the mid 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe
so. He started wrestling about the time Stone Cold did. They were within about a year of each other. And Stone Cold, think how long Stone Cold's been retired.
Was him coming in, him never losing a match at WrestleMania, and
till he ran into Brock Lesnar.
Yep, till he ran into Brock Lesnar, and that was what, 10 years ago?
That was 3 or 4.
Oh, only 3 or 4 years ago? Shit. See, that tells you how out of the loop I am.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, they were hitting their closet of legends, as they call them, on this one. Like, Edge, how's that neck feeling, buddy? I know you haven't wrestled in 9 years, but you're looking pretty in shape. He looked pretty good. But yeah, any predictions on the card? All I can say is there's something going on this weekend. There's some sort of a sporting event to watch this weekend. Anybody who's been getting the itch, anybody who's been sitting there stuck watching the classics, as good as the classics are, the new shit that's unpredictable, and WWE is nothing if not unpredictable.
Well, since normally at this point, before we wrap things up, we would have our casual come in and give us their predictions, but since this week we are the casuals, I'm going to give my best Loomy-esque impression. I'm not even looking at fucking stats. I'm not looking at pictures. I'm literally just going to go down the list of names here, and I'm going to give you my casual predictions for this weekend, directly off the link of all the matches.
I missed Aleister Black versus Bobby Lashley. That has potential to be fun.
We're going to run right down the list here. I got the list from Bleacher Report. AJ Styles versus Undertaker. I think Undertaker takes it. I don't think they're going to let The Undertaker get retired or get beat badly in this situation when you need the recognizable name. So I think Taker's going to come back. Goldberg versus the other gentleman, same situation. I think it's going to be the same situation here. You can't let the big names get thrown out in a time like this one. This is the first time we've seen anybody out in a minute here. I think they're going to make it close, but I think both of the old names are going to stay there. John Cena versus Bray Wyatt, I think is actually going to go the other way, though. I think, like you said, John Cena is too worried about being a fucking movie star these days. They brought him in for name recognition. I think he's going to get fucking wiped out, and we're going to see that stupid John Cena surprised face.
Yep.
Brock Lesnar versus Drew McIntyre. This one, I think, again, we're going to keep that old name in place. I don't think Vince McMahon spent that much fucking money to keep Brock Lesnar to let him lose in a situation like this. I think they might teeter-totter a little bit, make it look like he's going to go, but I think Brock's coming out with his hand raised on this one, too. Edge versus Randy Orton. This is one of the few that I actually legitimately have a little bit of a hard time, even though this is combat sports entertainment, predicting how this one might fall out here. I could see this one realistically going either way. I could see them wanting to let Edge be the hero and come out at the end, but I could also see them playing that whole aspect like they've been leading in, I'm doing this for your own good, Edge, and let Randy take it and then walk out and kind of use it as a transition match. could be interesting either way. Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler. I think this, again, like we're going with the theme here. I don't think the older name is going to lose here. I think they're going to let Becky Lynch take it, but I think they're going to do that thing where they give a little bit of a glimpse of prospect into the opposition, but then Becky Lynch takes it at the end, and it's a, great fight, but you're not there yet kind of situation. Keeps things moving along a little bit for them. Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair. I can't go against Ric Flair's daughter. I mean, woo! I gotta give it to her.
She's kind of pretty too.
The ladies SmackDown Women's Championship match. That
you could pick anybody off. That.
I was gonna say that's a dartboard throw. Like literally, pick a name. I'll support you in that prediction in that one. Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens. I have seen pictures of Seth Rollins, and I think he looks like a sack of douchebags. So I'm going with Kevin Owens specifically on that one. Bobby Lashley versus Aleister Black. Bobby Lashley actually did do a little bit of MMA, so I will give my thumbs up to Bobby Lashley on that.
So did Aleister Black, though.
Did he really?
If you look up a picture of Aleister Black, you'll probably recognize him. He was pretty big in Netherlands kickboxing.
Interesting. Okay, so let's see here. Where we go?
He
Daniel
does.
Bryan versus Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn because I don't like Daniel Bryan again. Going with Sami Zayn.
Oh. Okay.
Street Profits versus Austin Theory and Angel Garza. I'm going Austin Theory and Angel Garza just because I've seen Street Profits and I know kids who are like that without the WWE, and they stop that. Kabuki Warriors versus Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. This one I have to go with Kabuki Warriors because they're just so fucking entertaining. The little bit that I do know about modern wrestling, the fucking Kabuki Warriors, just you can't help but smile when you watch them get in. It's entertainment at its finest.
It's pretty fun. And they do the green. They do the good old green mist now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Otis versus Dolph Ziggler. Again, I can't root for a douchebag, so I'm Team Otis here. Again, same situation here. The Miz and Morrison versus the Usos versus the New Day. I can't in any way, shape, or form in good conscience vote for the Miz, so I'm going for the Usos in this one here.
The Uso Penitentiary,
That's right. But that is all the combat sports entertainment news we have for you fine folks here. We are about to run over into Tommy, so I do want to give both Tooney and Golf Tee here a chance if you would like to make some last-minute predictions here on this WWE.
I got my list.
Okay.
I'm not even going to run down. I'm just going to run down the list of names.
Okay.
Flair, that's a must. That's a mainstay in
Woo!
wrestling. Woo! That's all I got to do. Drew McIntyre can take out Brock Lesnar. Goldberg's going to keep it. I think Becky Lynch keeps it. Cena loses to Brad Wyatt. The women's five-way match, I have no fucking clue, so I'm just going to pick one here. Sasha Banks, because it sounds like a porn star.
She kind of looks like one.
Oh, okay, well, then we're good there.
Hey, there you go.
Undertaker and Styles. Undertaker's old as shit. We know he can lose in WrestleMania, so I'm going to give it to Styles.
Styles would run his mouth about that forever, and it would be amazing.
I'm going to say Seth Rollins over Owens there. And the triple threat ladder match, just because I don't know who any of them are at this point, we're going to say the New Day, just so that way I can be a little different here. Then I'm along with Meter on the tag team match. Austin Theory and Angel Garza. Street Profits, I did look up a picture of them in the meantime. Yeah, definitely not something I want my kids to go after. And then Bobby Lashley. Gotta give it to him. And Randy Orton over Edge. Just because that whole coming back after being gone 10 years. I remember him in the mid-90s.
Oh, yeah.
When he was with the Brood.
The
he was
Brood,
running around
baby.
like a
That's
vampire.
right. That's right.
Yeah. I do remember that. And I know who Daniel Bryan is, so I got to go Daniel Bryan.
I made you watch Daniel Bryan matches down when we were stationed together.
Yeah, when he was on the lowly and
Yeah,
small.
when he was the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson.
Yeah, and the Kabuki Warriors. Look,
Kabuki Warriors
Asians
are
and
awesome.
wrestling go hand in hand. That's just how that works. Sorry. Then Otis and Dolph Ziggler. I gotta go the Otis route just because big goofy fucker doesn't look like much. There you go. There's
He
my
does
pick.
he does do the worm. Being like 350 pounds doing the worm. It's pretty impressive.
That is impressive. I sure as fuck can't do that.
Well, I gotta go with Orton for Ren, and then I gotta go with all the old guys because holy shit, I can't imagine at 55 the aches and pains and just getting out there is pretty impressive.
Yeah. All right, easy enough. I guess I'll run through mine real quick and then we can get the fudge on out of here. Now that I think about it, I really want AJ Styles to win against The Undertaker. I really want that to happen so that he can, because when he was beating up on John Cena, like he would come out every week, and like he beat him twice in a row. He came out every week saying, "Man, I'm bored. I think I need to get into my favorite thing. That's beating up John Cena." So yeah, I kind of want Styles to win that match so he can get coming out every week. I kind of want to get into my favorite thing. That's beating up The Undertaker. So I kind of want him to do that. And that's a pretty good impersonation of his accent, by the way, everybody. Goldberg versus Braun Strowman. I kind of want Braun Strowman to win this. He's been in line for so fucking long, and he's been doing so much for the company for years at this point. He kind of deserves a title run. However short or abrupt it might be, he kind of deserves it. So I kind of want to see Braun Strowman take it. It was supposed to be Roman Reigns. And if it was Roman Reigns, who is the big dog of the WWE right now, he's the guy that they push down everybody's throat saying this is the guy. If it was Roman Reigns, he was going to beat Goldberg. He was going to do it. With it being Braun Strowman, there's no telling what direction they'll take it. Bray Wyatt versus John Cena. Bray Wyatt. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Slipknot, so that's all I have to say about that. And his entrance is one of the coolest fucking things ever. He walks out with a lantern shaped like his own head.
Nice.
It's pretty awesome. Brock Lesnar versus Drew McIntyre. They've been building it up for Drew McIntyre to take it and finally get a run. Like I said, he's another dude that's been around forever, been doing really good things at pretty much every level that he's been asked to do them, and has never really been given this shot. And so I think this is his shot, and I think they'll give it to him. Let Brock take a little bit of time off. Come back and be the dickhead that he can be. So, Edge versus Randy Orton. This has been building up like the hero's story, so I think there's no way that Edge doesn't take this. Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler. I kind of have to lean with what you guys are saying. I think Becky Lynch probably walks out of this with Shayna Baszler looking really good. Like Becky Lynch reaches down to shake her hand after it's over, and they have a mutual respect, and then Shayna Baszler kicks her in her girl nuts or something.
Right.
Because that's the type of character Shayna Baszler is. I wouldn't be surprised to see them give it to Shayna Baszler and give Becky Lynch some time off because she's been basically wrestling straight for a year. So that's the only thing that puts it in my head that maybe she can take it. Obviously, we have to go with Charlotte Flair. Woo! I love Rhea Ripley. I hope that she does get pulled up to the main roster so that she can start getting the exposure that I think she probably deserves, because she's going to be huge. She's going to be huge in a couple of years, and she's running around with the kind of the third tier title. At this point, it's time to move her up and see what she can do on the main stage. The women's 5-way, I don't know. I think I'll go with Sasha Banks because I like Sasha Banks. She's an amazing bad guy, and she's an amazing wrestler. So I'll give it to Sasha Banks. Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins. There's going to be shenanigans, and maybe Kevin Owens overcomes it. But I think Seth Rollins needs the momentum more than Kevin Owens does at this point to work with this Monday Night Messiah thing that he's been working the last couple weeks or last couple months. Gathering this crew of followers and, just being a dickhead. So I think that Aleister Black versus Bobby Lashley, they're kind of building Aleister Black up And this match kind of came out of nowhere. It was just they just announced it out of nowhere that it was happening. Lashley has kind of been on a little bit of a losing streak. So, I mean, I think it'll be a really fun match because both guys, when they're given the opportunity to work with someone who can work, are both very, very good. So I think it'll be a fun match. I'm leaning towards Aleister Black though, because he's got this. They let him kick people in the face as a one-shot KO, so it's kind of hard to argue against that. Elias versus King Corbin. I don't fucking care. I probably won't watch the match. Sami Zayn versus Daniel Bryan for the Intercontinental Championship. If there's any justice in this world, Sami Zayn wins this match. I love Daniel Bryan. He's one of the absolute best in the world, if not the best wrestler in the world right now.
Yes.
He would be.
Yes.
Yes. But Sami Zayn really needs that momentum. He just recently won this title, and I would be upset. I would be terribly upset if they let him go down that easily. But I mean, if he goes down, he goes down to Daniel Bryan. There ain't no shame in losing a wrestling match to Daniel Bryan. Street Profits versus Austin Theory and Angel Garza. I really want Austin Theory and Angel Garza to win this match. They're both really young, really good prospects. And if they win that championship, then they're going to be up on the main roster and they'll get a chance to kind of show off. And that's kind of what the WWE needs right now, is just that infusion of fresh blood and people you're not really familiar with, and watch them go out there and blow your mind. And Austin Theory can cut a promo and be the biggest jackass on the planet. And that's great for that team. And it's great for getting exposure, and that sort of thing gets people to, like Kobe Covington, it gets people into the fights. If you can call these fights. Kabuki Warriors versus Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. I have to go with Kabuki Warriors because Asuka and Kairi Sane are amazing. Absolutely amazing workers, and they deserve to carry those titles around for a long, long time. And then The Miz, like I said, I don't think The Miz is actually involved in this match at all, because he showed up for the taping sick, and so they sent him away. So there's probably going to be someone else working with Morrison versus the Usos versus the New Day. And when things like this happen, the default that the WWE has is to give it to the New Day. The New Day have been around forever. They're a trio, and they're all really good wrestlers. They're really entertaining, and that's kind of the WWE's default. If we don't know what's going on with this person, we'll give it to the New Day, let the New Day have it for a little bit, and then we'll swing it back around later. Yeah. So it's like an interim champion, kind of. So that's all the matches, everybody. Sorry we took up so much of your time, Tommy.
Yeah, apologies to Tommy. Absolutely. Before we do get out of here, though, I do want to take a moment here to thank these fine folks who did take the time out of their Friday evening to help me bring the I'm No Joe podcast to you wonderful folks. So if at this point, even though you've been quiet for the most part of the show, if at this point folks need to know how to get in touch with a legend himself, how can folks find you after this show, Addy Tooney?
Just look for my brother Fresh. I'm usually hanging around there someplace.
Good enough. Thank you very much for your time, sir.
I was going to say, we're doing pro wrestling mixes tomorrow, right?
Cool.
I would assume no less on a fresh Saturday show after a show like tonight with WrestleMania this weekend. So
I had fun, Meter. Thank you.
I appreciate you coming by, sir. And now, on that note, if folks do want to tune in and catch those wrestling-themed DIY mixing tomorrow morning, how could folks find some more of you, sir?
YouTube.com/fresh03. If you're here watching this, you found me. Congratulations. YouTube has made it mighty freaking hard to find people these days. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for having me on the I'm No Joe podcast again, Meter. I love I'm No Joe. I hope that everybody that got a little bit of exposure to it tonight, might not have normally turned into an I'm No Joe podcast, dug it and would like to check it out. It's basically what you saw here is us just sitting here talking trash to people that could probably put us in early graves, but we do it anyway. So everybody be beautiful to each other, educate, advocate, be good for this community. We'll see you on that next one. Down to my boy Golf Tee.
Hell yeah. The man, the myth himself, Golf Tee Vapes. If folks need to get some more information from you after the show, please tell them how they could do so.
Wednesday nights, right here on the YouTubes, Golf T Vapes, 9:30 Central Times. You can find me on the Instagrams, but not me posting anything, only DMs, because that's the only thing I deal with on there. It's like an instant messenger for me at this point. I quit posting shit there. I just don't do social media. But yeah, 9:30 Central Time. Come hang out on my channel. It's a shit show, for lack of better terms, but it's fun.
It is fun.
Absolutely. And thank you again for your time as well, sir. So that, folks, is all we have for this particular episode of the I'm No Joe podcast. Before we get out of here, I would like to say, if we entertained you, please give us a thumbs up. If we made you laugh, if we gave you some neat things to think about, maybe subscribe to the I'm No Joe YouTube channel. We try and do this every damn week. If we gave you some points to think about that you hadn't had before, if we enlighten you to some things that you weren't aware of yet, share an episode of the show for us. We're trying to grow this damn thing. But on the opposite side of that, if we're just a couple of dipshits sitting around in front of webcams talking out our ass without knowing what we're actually saying, go ahead and give us a thumbs down. We earned it, and I won't dispute that. But that being said, that is all we have for this evening. So remember, folks, don't let ignorance stop you. You can root for anything. Unless, at this point, you really think that it was coincidence that Khabib went back to Russia right before they locked it down.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening.
I still remember when it was safe to go outside.